Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Happy 4th of July to my American friends, and Dr. Thick6, he's at it again, having a few spicy words indeed to say for OpTic after their match last night. But does he actually have a point in terms of what OpTic's problem is right now, and why they can't seem to reach the form that might well take them to a championship victory once again? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Videos to the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to dive into today. Definitely wanted to discuss the Paris thing first of all, because even Veli on the desk was pretty frustrated last night. He said the following: Paris management got to do something about this team. I feel terrible for the players and the lack of attention needed for this team to thrive. Take your team seriously. This isn't fun anymore. At least let Temp go to a team that can win. He follows up with, right? So definitely I feel like a lot of people echo that sentiment, right? And last night Temp said that that might be it, right? I didn't even comment last night on the fact that he puts this kind of no flares given hashtag at the end, which I thought was kind of hilarious, all things considered. So look, this tweet is still up there. We don't know what's going to happen to Temp behind the scenes, whether he's going to say, look, I've actually had enough. Slasher says, keep your head up, mate. But you know, it's tough scenes. He does follow up with this: watching a movie with the fam, life is good at the end of the day, don't forget your blessing, it could always get worse, he said. So like I mean, yeah, I suppose he could always be stuck in challenges, but you know, being stuck on Paris is arguably no better, if not even worse at times, because it definitely seems to sometimes be a death sentence to some people's careers. I don't think it will be the same case for Temp right here, but I'm honestly not sure, because if they signed him on, I guess last year he was on Paris briefly at the end, right, if I remember correctly. So like the 1+1 that he has in effect effectively like expires this year, so I'm pretty sure like they can't just keep him on for next season anyway. He will be able to go to another team if of course they want him. But yeah, tough scenes for of course Temp so far this season. Now Kismet from the New York side was giving some very interesting insight into what could have gone on with Paris behind the scenes. The amount of stories I've heard the last couple of years or so really of the teams that Paris could have had, the players they could have picked up, the teams they could have built, and they decided to pass on these players due to generally money reasons or not thinking that they were good options, is honestly incredible. So Kismet even says right here, I'm pretty sure this was after Major 1, they had the chance to get the Texas Nation roster, and that of course was the team of Kismet, Havok, General, and aBeZy that they could have signed, but you know, Drew McCourt, I believe, is the kind of owner of the team. They don't even have like a general manager really that decides the roster decisions. They have the team, they have Theory, they have a Search and Destroy coach that they've now let go, that they weren't even paying, right? aBeZy was doing it for free, and then they don't even have a GM. So classic stuff really from Paris. Kismet of course clarified this would be at league minimum salaries. The organization's owner didn't want to spend any money at all, because if he was going to drop the roster they currently had, then they have to pay them out for like a couple of months or whatever exactly it works out to be. So like for the sake of saving a few K, they decided to keep their current roster at the time and not bring in what could have been the entire Texas Nation team, right? And even as Center says, Drew literally told me to make him a roster for the Modern Warfare season, and then when we followed up a week later, he was extremely upset with me that I made him a roster. I laughed and shook my head, right? And even I'm pretty sure Doug, like I heard that Doug even got an offer this year to join Paris and play for them, and he turned them down because he understands what that means. So thought that was rather interesting as well. Now Kismet follows up here with plenty of talking points on this matter. I guess I'll just bring this up on the big screen so you guys can see it. Paris decided against getting Texas Nation. We said we'd play for minimum after Major 1. Like, you know, they forced me into Cali year 1 to pay 6K rent. Of course, Kismet was on this team back in the Modern Warfare days and said no to Texas, and after told me I was going to have to play and live in France. Yeah, that was another crazy thing about Paris. They wanted their team to play out of France because for some reason they thought that was a reasonable thing to do. That org is whack. I told Drew, the owner, he was dumb, and he dropped me on my head after telling me that, and he said, watch us succeed. Joke of a guy, says a reply. So this is honestly just hilarious stuff here, but I mean, tragic in a way for the guys that are still stuck in that organization. And I don't know what's going to happen next year, right? Just because we know they're meant to be moving to Vegas, but is it the same owner? Like, are they changing ownership? Are they going to sell it to someone else? Because I want to see Vegas, especially as it's going to be next year, be an actual competitive franchise with good players, with them, as I mentioned a couple of days ago, like the possibility of Clayster. Is that a team he could step into and take over leadership of? If, you know, but of course you don't want to join Paris, even if they're not called Paris anymore. So remarkable situation, really. And this also just to note as well, because this was mentioned on Breaking Points, we heard a few months ago that Novus, when he was kind of working with Paris, talked to them about trying to get Hydra, trying to get Sib. I'm pretty sure they also got pitched Pred and Afro, and even as it mentioned in the reply here, Mac, Sib, Pred, Afro, Hydra. All of these players they passed up over the last couple of years when no one was really talking about these guys before they got onto good teams. Like Paris were kind of, well, in talks with some of these players. They decided to turn down all of them, went the route that they did, which of course has actually put them in a worse position, right? It's kind of incredible how, like even as kind of Chrome points out right here, yeah, it's between Gravity and Jimbo or Texas Nation. I think aBeZy's visa was an issue as well. That's the thing. Paris don't want to go to any extra effort at all. If they have to pay some money or do whatever to get aBeZy a visa, they weren't going to do it. And okay, we'll just keep our current roster and trade out Johnny for John, and that's going to, well, fix the entire roster apparently. Now this is the crazy thing about it as well, that like you know, Paris can't get any worse, right? Because back in Modern Warfare, even last year in Cold War, it's like, wow, Paris, man, what a terrible team. But if you compare their stats, look at this, right? 2020 Legion, 11 in 17, not too bad. 8 in 26 in 2021. This year, they're 2 in 20, a 9% win rate. Actually getting worse and worse every single season, right? It's remarkably impressive that they've managed to do this, right? Comparing their 2020 roster, which wasn't terrible, but still not great, compared to what's happened in the last couple of years. And then next year, maybe they'll go winless entirely, right? So crazy situation. Feel bad for everyone really still associated with that organization, right? But let's talk about the Subliners versus OpTic match from last night. New York certainly tweeted out some spicy things, but it wasn't really New York tweeting out the spicy stuff. It was Crimsix himself that came up with, well, quite the tweet. He also did quite the interview up to the match as well. But it's the kind of, well, Dr. Disregard, he called himself right here, which I thought was rather funny. So he had this one prepared because, well, I guess he kind of felt like he was going to win the series last night. And certainly comparing the fundamentals of this New York team compared to OpTic, it was a night and day difference last night. It was a 3-1 in the end, but all the respawns were pretty dominant in the end. And you can even see here, Dashi, I'm pretty sure Cellium went negative in the FaZe series against Guerrillas, and then Dashi was like, okay, you know, I'm the MVP, you're the MVP, I can do it as well, right, and drops a 0.9. And even as Crim says, may have gone -8, but I made sure someone else went negative, let's go. But basically talking about Dashi, I imagine, right, or Ilya, I don't know, like, of course, former teammates and stuff like that, like both of these guys with Crimsix in the past. I just wanted to mention the stats real quick here, just because I thought the engagement numbers between Scump and Shotzzy were worthy of further discussion here, because Scump's 91 in 91, 1 KT. Yes, he actually has marginally less damage than Shotzzy, but like the engagement numbers, this is not what you'd expect really. Like Shotzzy, yes, he has a 1.04, but I feel like generally he's been rather underwhelming as of late, especially so far in stage 4. He hasn't been that crazy impact Shotzzy that we saw that was the best player in the game for the majority of the season so far, but now like he certainly isn't really at that level, and it's a little bit strange to me that he has, what, 9 less kills here than Scump, and what, 12 less, so he's got like, what, 21 less engagements or whatever than Scump has. So it's something we'll have to keep an eye on, I think, from the OpTic side, but it's not like Illy's been playing bad since his return either. It's just like he hasn't necessarily got it. Well, the rest of the team hasn't been quite performing at the level that they need to, right? But it's not just the stats, of course, that tell the story here. It's actually watching the games themselves. Like, yeah, Shotzzy versus Crimsix. Who knows if they can actually, well, if he can actually beat him for the rest of this year. It does seem like against Crimsix, he just has the absolute number. But this is what Crim says last night. GG's OpTic. Y'all should probably get in the hill. This was the key statement to me that I was thinking, wow, like, yeah, this is quite something. Indy, you just got your other thumb back after it had been somewhere deep within your own arsehole. Don't shoot my body, you fat. I don't know if YouTube demonetizes that, so I'm not going to say it anyway. Say there's a beast and even a better friend. Now to go use your Twitch Prime on my channel, hashtag NYSL. So quite the tweet, really. Like, I mean, look, I know that Indy and Crim kind of get on right here, but I don't think this is, you know, quite the sentence to have. But really, to me, I was looking at this one, right? The fact that he was saying, look, you guys should get into the hill. I think it was relatively clear watching map 1, map 4, that like the fundamentals there were just not there, right? And that's the thing with New York and Crimsix's teams generally this year, last year as well on Dallas Empire. The amount of times they can drop a 1 KD and win a series comfortably is rather incredible. Like, look at these numbers right here. Like, the fact that New York won all 3 respawns in this series comfortably and only outslayed by a relatively marginal number just goes to show how well New York play on a fundamental level. And that's obviously not the case for OpTic, right? Watching the game 1, like, I mean, a lot of the time, even on the Berlin, right, there were some key moments where, like, Scump and Dashi didn't seem to be fully aligned with the rest of the team in terms of where they should be, getting in the hard point at the appropriate moment. These type of ideas that weren't really there for OpTic, right? And Crim is probably hitting on an interesting point here. They're like, okay, yeah, we're the better team right now, but you guys should actually get in the hill, rethink about how to play this hardpoint gameplay, because it looked incredibly sloppy. The fundamentals were not there, and yes, certainly New York, you could argue, top 1, top 2, top 3, certainly hardpoint team in the game right now, but obviously can't afford to lose this many hardpoints against good teams if they want to actually be able to compete for the rest of this year. And it's not like OpTic Search and Destroy is a masterclass either, even though on the New York side, I'm still a bit concerned about if they go game 5, whether they can actually clutch up in those moments, but so far they don't need to do that, because they're beating everyone 3-0 and 3-1 at the moment. And even as Scump does agree, just playing bad, sloppy COD right now, got to tighten up before this last push. And certainly OpTic find themselves in a bit of a predicament, right? And Crim, I don't know if you guys think he has a point on the kind of getting the hill idea, because I mean, yeah, just watching the kind of difference in the fundamentals, getting the hill time, Shotzzy flanking all the time, right? It was almost kind of an Envoy reminder situation of last season, Scump playing like their best player at this point of the year. It's very reminiscent of what happened last year with the OpTic team, a lot of people might well say. Now, of course, they did have this crazy moment in the Search and Destroy, Scump and a nice little 2 versus 4, but in the respawns just got fundamentally and comprehensively outplayed, right? And if you can't win control either, and your hardpoint is, well, not good enough to beat a team like New York on a consistent basis, then OpTic are really going to struggle, right? And it's not just against New York, they might well struggle. They play Toronto next week in a rather difficult situation. Wanted to mention this real quick, actually, just kind of win rates in different game modes with Prelude, with Illy. Of course, these numbers are very similar indeed, actually, across the course of the season, and of course with Illy. So it's difficult to read all that much into it, but I did think it was rather interesting that when Prelude did first step into this team, they looked rather good, and then since then, like even with Illy back, they haven't really been able to hit that level as of yet. And yes, it's very recent. Illy's only just been back into the team. They're going to need a bit of time. Like, I think that's understandable, but at the end of the day, if they can't make winners bracket at this major, which is looking rather likely that they won't at this point, then, you know, what does that put themselves in for actually making a good run of the major, getting good practice, and also building up confidence ahead of the World Championship, right? Because you want to go into champs, feel like you can win it. Of course, like, they're going to be probably solidified the number 2 seed here, meaning they will play the 7th seed, whatever that ends up being, right? Which could be Thieves, could be Ultra, could be a team in that ballpark, could even be New York, depending on how much of a run they make throughout the rest of the year. New York, of course, just to mention their champ stats real quick, currently sitting on 110 points, but the loss that FaZe had to Guerrillas puts them on 135, even though looking at Guerrillas' remainder of the season, not sure how many more points they're actually going to accrue as a result of that. And Rokkr and Mutineers still both play Paris, right? So New York, despite going 4-0, like, it's not like their life gets that much easier. They're still 25 points off qualification, and they probably might be 20 points behind, or like 10 points behind, who knows, like at Rokkr and Mutineers going into the major. What it does mean, though, is if New York, what they've put themselves in a position now, is if they make the finals at the major, they'll get 50 points, and they'll put themselves at 160, and that's certainly going to be good enough. 150 might be good enough depending on the situation, but it might not be. So I think they have to be targeting really 160 points. That either means a finals at the major, or it means go 5-0 in groups and beat Thieves next weekend, and then come top 3, then they'll get 160 as well. So they certainly need a massive major run, but it's also possible that all these teams down here just keep on losing, and then New York don't actually need that many more points to qualify, right? So they're right in the hunt right now. There's no doubt about it, and playing as they currently are, I think that, well, they're on good form to qualify, there's no doubt. Whether they can actually confirm that at the major, though, because they haven't won a match at a major so far this year, is another question entirely. Now, on the OpTic side, because of course New York are sitting pretty 4-0 so far this stage, OpTic are now a 1-3 here, a 7-10 map count. Next week they play Toronto. Toronto play 2 games next week, and Toronto also are sitting at 1-2 right here, so it's rather likely that the loser of Toronto OpTic, I mean, the loser of this series will almost certainly be in the losers bracket here. I mean, if it's OpTic, they certainly will be, but I mean, yeah, the 7-10 map count is not looking so great. They need to beat Ultra, they need to do that relatively comfortably in order to make sure they'll get the winners bracket based on the 2 and 3 tiebreakers. So tough situation. Crimsix, of course, with some spicy words, but yeah, they're gonna certainly have to think about this and Crimsix's words, right? Because right now New York are playing like one of the best, if not the best, hardpoint teams in the game, and it's really, that's where OpTic was struggling in this particular series, right? And Crim saying, look, get on the hill, guys. Think about how you're playing from a fundamental level, and I'm sure that Rambo might be able to think about the way Crimsix was playing the game and kind of the way their system was on Dallas Empire last year with Rambo at the helm of the team, with Illy and Shotzi there as well. I'm thinking, okay, can we replicate to a degree Crimsix's and New York's style right now that's making them so good in hardpoint? So plenty to fix for OpTic over this next week or so, and they need that victory next weekend against Toronto if, for me, they want to have a good chance of doing anything for the rest of the season. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, and as like you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
This game is by no means theirs. Tip's starting to go on a spree. Glide bomb does get in. Did Thieves hop in for a moment? And they get the final second that they had to. Paris fight toward the end, but my goodness, what a chaotic beginning. Team kill after team.